There's a line on the ground that'll take you anywhere. If you want to go somewhere in particular, you gotta follow the right line. But there's a line on the ground most places, and we're gonna follow that line to whatever we might find, though it might not be just what we were expecting. There's just no point directing that line on the ground. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere.
Houston EV Hub here at KPFT 90.1 Houston, and also live at kpft.org and in the archives, kpft.org archive, choose show, then look for EV Hub, and that's us. They keep the shows in there for 60 days, but if those go away, they're always at our YouTube presence forever. How can listeners learn more about Houston EVA, Colin, and how can they find our YouTube channel?
Good morning, Houston. If you go to houstoneva.org, you can get to our Facebook page or our YouTube page, and you can connect directly with us. We have events and meetings. Why not?
Yeah, so this morning is all about charging. That's a big concern for new EV drivers and even veteran EV drivers like the ones here from Houston Electric Vehicle Association. Colin and I have been driving electric for a long time. So the title of our show today is Charge Me Up. But first, a couple of weeks ago at Earth Day at Discovery Green, we met a lot of nice people from all over the country. And one of them we did a little interview with, and he's from Portland, Oregon. Here he is.
Hey, this is Ben James from Portland, Oregon. I have a 22 Rivian R1T. I got it after several years of waiting, and the first thing I did is I drove down to Palm Springs, which is about, a 1,300-mile trip. And at the time, I had a lot of range anxiety. I was worried about where I was going to stop and how I was going to make it. And I think about halfway down, and this was 2.5 years ago, I realized that the infrastructure already was at the point where I didn't need to worry. I just need to have a little thought ahead of time of where I'm going to charge.
I found that to be the case in the past 12 years. We started out very uncertain. We thought we have to get up in the morning, go to the grocery store where they have some chargers, and get some charge. We graduated to plugging into our dryer outlet. And that worked, except we had to keep the door open to the side of the house for a while. So then we had a designated 110 thing installed on the carport, and that's all we needed. I mean, plenty of people offered to install 220 for us, but we haven't needed it. We charge over the weekend when we don't use the car that much, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I'll note that we ended up putting a level 2 in our place, and then we bought a second EV as well, and so between my spouse and I, we're always charging. Like the first rule of owning electric is always be charging. So we've adopted that, and one of us is always plugged in. And up in Oregon where we live, it is so much cheaper to fill up our electric tank versus with petroleum fuel. We're saving a lot of money, so we're really happy.
All right, that was Ben James, Portland, Oregon, enjoying his electric vehicle. One of the good things about driving electric is meeting so many people who are interested in this. It feels like a wave that's washing over the world right now, and I hope it continues. Right now we're going to introduce a new feature on our program. It's called Colin's Cool Fact, and here's our producer, Colin Lowen.
Good morning. So today's cool fact, of the 215,636 car fires in 2023, 52 of those were EVs. These are stats from the NTSB. That works out to be about 590 per day for ICE vehicles, also known as. These are 20 times less likely than ICE to catch fire. But the media doesn't report ICE fires, just too many of them, an everyday occurrence. EVs get the headlines because we click on that bait. I don't know if that's cool, but it's a fact.
Yeah, it's funny calling it a cool fact. We're talking about fires, but generally there's really not that much to fear with these cars, and the water's fine. Jump on in if you're ready. And somebody who's done that is someone that I was in high school with. We both went to Bel Air High School in the early 70s. We were both born in the same year, 1953. And my friend's name is Dan Foltz. He's a brain surgeon and professor, retired, living now in Utah. He's on the line. And Dan, I understand something exciting happened yesterday.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I know that you have been and are a passionate and influential advocate for electric cars for at least 10 years, and I want to thank you, David, for helping convince me to take the plunge.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
My first EV arrived yesterday.
Well,
how about that?
I think you were waiting another month for it to show up. Were you surprised? And how did you get it? I mean, did they bring it to you?
Well, it just appeared, and I bought the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and I got it before the Trump tariffs were in effect. Those cars are made in Mexico, so I was concerned about that, but I dodged the tariff.
Yeah, well, I know you personally are a big buff for 1950s model cars. You've restored a number of them. Tell us a little bit about that and how you feel about making the transition to electric now.
Well, I must confess that joining the EV community was a bold step for me because, as you say, I am an enthusiastic gas engine amateur mechanic and vintage car restorer, have been for 50 years. But I have to say that although it's always a thrill to buy a new car, the excitement I felt about buying the EV was especially intense because I was committing to new technology. In fact, that gave me insight into what those Americans in the early 1900s must have felt when they decided to buy a Model T Ford.
And as we pointed out a number of times, electric cars are not new. In 1897 and just beyond into the early 20th century, electric cars were the more popular types of cars among the few cars there were at the time. And that continued for a while, but some bad business moves and so forth. But they didn't really have the technology to support it, and now I think we do. So I'm so glad you've joined us. I hope someday everyone else will, and the world will live as one. But we have a talk scheduled for tomorrow, Dan, at 11 o'clock Central Time, which is 10 o'clock your time?
Yes.
So we'll continue, and we're going to move on now. But thank you so much. As our first caller today, you're entitled to a free surprise gift that will be winging its way through the mail to your address. So enjoy your beautiful new. I enjoy your beautiful new car. I saw a picture of it. It's a pretty blue, and it just looks like it's ready to go. And I think you are too. So thanks for crediting me with some of that decision. We'll see you later.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, Dan. And now, on with the show. Today we're calling it Charge Me Up. And we're here with Kate Kruk, all the way from New York. We've met on a number of occasions, and once in person, including at her beautiful residence in upstate New York. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning, David. Thank you so much for having me back here. And I believe my colleague, Dan Connelly, it's a party of Dan's today, is on the line with us today, too, because we're talking about EV charging, right?
Are you there, Dan?
I am. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at.
Well, we're down here in Houston, and I wore another hat, especially in your honor. I know you liked my top hat, and we got a good picture together. But we welcome both of you. But let's start with Kate and talk about something we've talked about with you privately before, your attendance at the annual charging conference in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so that was back in March. I got to attend the EV Charging Summit out in Las Vegas. It's a fantastic event that brings together the entire EV charging industry. And what I can say that regardless of what you might be hearing in the news, and I think your friend Dan put it pretty well there, the person who was on the interview previous to me coming on board says that, sometimes what's in the news is kind of that sensational piece. The things that don't happen very often is what's reported on. And we hear a lot about, EVs not being able to make the cut in this current environment that we're living in. And at that EV charging summit, that was not the case. It was 2 ballrooms filled with innovators and leaders in EV charging. And what was most important and most impressive to me was the amount of companies that were U.S. domestic based providing solutions for EV charging. So as we continue to build the industry that we need to fuel our electric vehicles, the innovation that's coming from domestic locations, domestic producers, is starting to creep up, which was much different than it was in the past couple of years. There were other folks that were, investing in the States, and we need, as we build out critical infrastructure, more and more folks like my team, at Lynkwell, people like Dan, who are innovators, who are actually physically building the technology that we need to fuel our vehicles. So we saw that a lot on the floor at the EV Charging Summit. There was over 5,000 attendees, leaders from across the country, all coming together and discussing how the best way to get the infrastructure we need is by working together. So that was my takeaway there.
All right.
And lots of great stuff that was coming off the floor.
It's really exciting to me to hear about things like this, and attending the annual meeting of Electric Vehicle Association has continued to open my eyes to what's going on in the background. We may not be in the forefront of things here in Houston, but I do see lots of cars all the time. And Kate and Dan work for a company called Lynkwell. Dan, could you explain what Lynkwell is doing?
Yeah, Lynkwell is trying to be that one source for everyone in this EV industry, whether you're looking for DC fast chargers, level 2 chargers, an app that you can work with and you can trust. Maybe you're looking for service, maybe you're looking for install, you could be a municipality looking to set up charging stations out front and try and bring into revenue. So, Lynkwell wants the world to know that effectively we've been here for years. We've been working on all facets associated with the EV industry. And if you need everything or one piece of any of those things that we laid out, we've got a lot of experience and a lot of people in-house that can support all of those needs.
And I saw firsthand in your manufacturing facility the setup that you have for actually putting together the reliable chargers that you're implementing. You have it down to the minute. I mean, how long it should take to put together one unit. Can you explain?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Lynkwell, we are building, producing, and, refining and coming to market with versions of level 2 chargers. So our Lynkwell product right now is a 48 amp product, and we're working on an 80 amp version of that right here. So what you saw when you came through here was our lean manufacturing process, where effectively we, within less than an hour's time, can assemble one complete unit and then go through test of our product. So this is a scalable operational process here, very clean, very efficient, and we're utilizing local people from the area that we've given an opportunity to come into the building, learn about manufacturing, build skill sets, and build careers here. So it's not just about building the CV industry, but it's also about building out some people in this in this region and building out some skill sets. And this is a great growth opportunity for us to have the next product or the next technological advance associated with EV to be a front runner there. So again, we can provide other people's products and services, and we can also provide our own, which we truly believe is that next level product.
Well, it's really good to hear that you're supporting level 2 charging, because with my 2020 model EV, it did not come with DC fast charge, much to my surprise, after we've been using it quite easily for even extended trips. But we'll certainly keep that in mind next time we're thinking about a car, though I love the one we have. We have Ali with us on the line, who's going to join in for a moment with our discussion. I talked with him earlier, and he mentioned that he interviews people around the world and has talked to some about how rapidly some systems can charge. Can you explain that briefly, Ali?
Absolutely. I have a YouTube channel called Clean Titans, where I talk to people from around the world on cleaning our future. And in China recently, BYD announced that they have a 1,000-volt system on new EVs that can charge 399 kilometers, or about 400 kilometers in 5 minutes. And then a week later...
5 minutes, really? I mean, I want to get Dan and Kate's reaction to this just right now. What do you think of that statement?
I personally, I think that that's impressive. However, I always like to take it back to the reality of what the functionality is for your vehicle. So the average person only drives 40 miles a day. So while the number and the statistic is impressive, it goes back to use case. So for something like bigger fleets, so like heavy duty fleets where you need to move things quickly, having larger chargers and larger batteries is going to be a game changer in those types of applications. But down to day-to-day use, 5 minutes is great, but is it a reality? Do I need it? Probably not.
What do you think, Dan?
So when major breakthroughs happen in the technological advancement sector, it's like signal waves, is what I would say. So this one sounds like a great one. And then what this will level out to, in my signal wave comment there, is something a little lower than that the general population will learn from and will utilize eventually. So there will be something from here that's more popular in use. However, as was brought up in the beginning here, the highlights in the world, in the news sector, we always talk about the glitz and the glam and the big stuff. So from an EV side of life, we love these stories as well, because they counteract the stories, like we said 15 minutes ago, about the 10 car fires in the EV versus the hundreds over on the ICE side, right? So it's good to see these beautiful potentials out there to also swing the pendulum on the favorable side of the EV growth in the industry.
Well, thank you, Ali. I just wanted to get that in, and on a later program, I will discuss more with you in depth.
Well, I just wanted to mention that CATL a week later announced that they can do 523 kilometers in 5 minutes.
Wow.
With their system.
And, of course, we're all waiting for solid-state batteries and all that holds. I believe that's Dave Hansen on the line. Is that correct, or is this another Dave? Hello, Dave.
It's me.
Hi, Dave.
It's me. It's Dave.
What can you add to this discussion that we're having about charging, and with some of our representatives in National EVA, Kate Kruk and Dan Connelly, manufacturing manager, if I have that correct, with Lynkwell?
Yeah, well, I've been watching EVs for a long time. I've been a member of the Houston Club since 1994.
Let me just add, Dave is president of our Houston EVA. Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, yeah, I've moved up. And, it's exciting to hear how cars can now be more quickly charged. And I think when people want to use their cars for road trips, that's when that becomes important. I always tell people to divide their driving of an EV into local driving and long-distance driving. And, of course, the biggest benefit of local driving is that you can just charge up every night, and it's like the movie Groundhog Day. You've got a full tank of electrons every morning for 50 weeks of the year. And then if you drive your car on a 2-week trip, if it has fast enough charging for you, and I've done many long road trips with our EVs, you're fine. But I also tell people, well, if you really need to, rent a car that's got more special characteristics for your vacation time with the family.
Okay, well...
And I would say, Dave, to that point, too, something that's really important is as you're planning that out, and since we are talking about charging today, is making sure that the communities that you're in, especially the travel and tourism industries, realize the need to have EV charging stations at locations that people are using and are the equivalent of home while they're traveling. So something like those level 2 chargers that Dan's creating and making, those are a perfect application, is overnight charging at hotels and hospitality across the country. And we need more of that. Those kinds of locations are prime for charging locations.
Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to come back to Kate and Dan and Dave, but right now we're going to take time for a popular feature on the show. It's called Fun with Zip and Zap. And today's episode is called, and I hope everyone is in place to start our program. Today's episode is called Charging Etiquette.
What a lovely day in the park, Zip.
Yeah, and we can just park our car and charge it up while we take a good long walk. But look, disappointed, all the chargers are being used.
Wait a minute. Not all the cars are connected, and one of them isn't even electric.
Well, fortunately, we aren't really that low. We'll be all right.
But Zip, these people should know that these spaces are here especially for electric cars. Even if a car is electric, it shouldn't be left in the space if it's finished charging. These aren't parking spaces. They're charging spaces.
Maybe I should write an angry note and leave it on the car that isn't electric and on the ones that aren't connected.
Just remember, Zip, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
I don't know what you're talking about, Zap. Why would I want to catch flies? I usually try to avoid flies, don't you?
I'm just saying that a polite note might work better than a blunt one.
Okay. How does this sound? Dear miscreants, scofflaws, and ne'er-do-wells, it's time to learn some charging etiquette. I could try to sugarcoat this message by reminding you that flies are more easily caught if honey is offered rather than vinegar. Anyway, whatever that means, next time you leave your car in a space reserved for electric cars, I'll write you another note, just as vinegary as this one. I'll leave this note under their windshield wiper, Zap.
Really, Zip? We don't want to offend.
Uh-oh. Look, Zap. That tough-looking character is headed straight for us. Oh, I say, what are you doing to my car? Well, to put it in the least vinegary terms, we just wanted to remind you that these spaces are reserved for electric cars while charging, and if you do it... I'm terribly sorry. I had no idea. I really must pay more attention. Instead of having my head in the clouds all the time, I'll move my car at once. But listen, I've never ridden in an electric car. Do you have one?
Yes, we were trying to charge here, but you...
I'll move it post-haste, but do you think you would give me a test ride so that I can see what electric cars are like? I don't see why not. If you're really interested, hop in.
Yes. Okay.
A few moments later.
Oh, my goodness, that was really first rate. I'm ready to go out and purchase one. I'm tired of always having to buy petrol, and my car is getting old. Sometimes it smokes and smells bad. But what kind should I buy, and can you recommend a good dealership?
Well, actually, we can't give you that kind of advice. You see, this is a non-commercial station, and we're not allowed to promote particular products or businesses on the air.
Oh, well, I don't want to violate any rules. Do you think you could give me your personal opinion after the show? Probably, but I'll have to check first. No worries, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I'm sure I can do a little research and figure this out. But thanks for the ride and for giving me my first lesson in charging etiquette. I'll pass this knowledge along to others. Ciao for now.
A few moments later.
Why does the phrase,
"You can't judge a book by its cover," come to mind?
I don't know, Zap, but let's get back to the flies. I made up a little joke. Listen, what did the fly call a drink that combined honey and vinegar?
I'm sure I don't know. What did the fly call a drink that combined honey and vinegar?
Sweet and sour. Okay, thank you. All right, I want to point out that was my wife, Jane, the second lady of Houston Electric Vehicle Association since I became vice president, and Secret Service are right outside. But Kate and Dan, if you're still there, and Dave, what else can we add to our discussion in the time remaining?
I love that Zip and Zap pointed out the icing, or when internal combustion vehicles park in EV charging spaces, because I do want to point out, since you do have the power of the airwaves, to tell folks that people and businesses especially have spent money on installing that infrastructure mostly. So when individuals park in those spaces and they're not consuming the energy or using those charging stations to actually fuel vehicles, oftentimes those businesses who spent the funds to put that infrastructure there or use it as a marketing tool to get people to visit their business, to come to downtowns, when those spaces are filled with vehicles that are not fueling, those folks are losing out on revenue.
Wow.
And I know sometimes I'm going to put my EVA hat on, sometimes folks want to, send a message by parking in those spaces. And what they're really doing is hurting their local communities and hurting those local businesses who have invested in that infrastructure.
Well, we're gonna keep trying to raise the consciousness of the public, and we want to thank everyone for joining us today from New York, Kate and Dan from Utah, and Ali here in Houston, and my wife Jane. Thank you, Jane. I'll get to work, and we're ready to get out, but. You've been listening to Houston EV Hub. To contact Houston EVA.
Yes, join us at houstoneva.org.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Drive safely. You'll save lives.
Most places, and we're gonna follow that line to whatever we might find, though it might not be just what we were expecting. There's just no point directing that line on the ground. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere. If you let it, it just might take you anywhere.